God said it's starting. And everyone froze. They heard the words echo through the chaos of their ordinary lives, and for a moment, everything stopped. Not because the message was quiet, but because it was too loud for the unprepared. God said it's starting, the shift, the awakening, the judgment, the rise, the opportunity, the inevitable breaking of every comfort zone humans built around themselves like fragile walls. And when those words thundered across the soul, most people froze, because deep down they knew what it meant. No more excuses, no more delays, no more hiding from the destiny they kept postponing. It meant the clock had run out on procrastination, fear, and hesitation. Some people freeze when the divine speaks because they think the command is too big for them, too heavy for their shoulders, too terrifying for their hearts. But God never speaks a beginning unless He already knows you can survive the middle and finish the end. The problem is never capability, it's conviction. People wanted comfort more than calling, safety more than responsibility, applause more than growth. They prayed for miracles but feared the moment those miracles demanded action from them. They wanted blessings without transformation, victory without the war, elevation without the climb. And then God said, "It's starting," and suddenly thousands who had begged for breakthrough realized breakthrough requires breaking something first, usually the old version of you. So the world froze. Not because heaven was silent, but because heaven finally spoke. Loud. Direct. Unavoidable, but the few who didn't freeze. Oh, they felt fire. The announcement wasn't a threat, it was an ignition. It was the start of the era where excuses lose their power, where fear no longer gets to sit in the driver's seat, where destiny no longer waits politely for your bravery to catch up. God said it's starting, and those who were ready understood that the beginning of anything powerful often looks like chaos to the unprepared. Storms, shaking, discomfort, resistance, these aren't signs of destruction, they're signs of movement. Signs that heaven's blueprint is replacing human hesitation. People froze because they were afraid to lose the version of themselves that was small, predictable, and safe. But God isn't in the business of keeping people small. When He says it's starting, He's saying the season you prayed for is finally here, but it won't come wrapped in comfort. It will come wrapped in pressure, in challenge, in fire that forges, not fire that destroys. It will come in opportunities disguised as battles, in breakthroughs disguised as burdens, in blessings disguised as responsibilities no one else wants to carry, and that's why the majority stopped. Because starting means stepping into the unknown. It means walking into territory where your old habits can't come with you. It means admitting that the life you tolerated was never the life you were meant to settle for, but God does not choose the frozen. He chooses the willing. You can almost hear Him calling out again, "It's starting." Move. Not whispering, commanding. Because some people don't respond to gentle nudges, they need divine disruption, The ones who move are the ones who understand that destiny doesn't wait for emotions to settle. Destiny begins when obedience gets louder than fear. These are the people who refuse to freeze because they know that when God says it's starting, He isn't waiting for a vote. He isn't asking for permission. He is initiating something too big for hesitation to sabotage. The world may freeze, but the chosen don't. They step forward into the roar of possibility. They walk even when their legs shake. They speak even when their voice trembles. They build even when no one claps. They rise even when no one believes. Because when God says it's starting, your only job is to start. Start believing, start moving, start preparing, start stretching, start becoming the person who can carry the weight of what's coming. You can see them, the ones who don't freeze. Their eyes sharpen. Their backs straighten. Their spirit ignites. They hear the words "it's starting" not as a threat but as a divine summons. They understand that starting means shifting from survival mode to purpose mode. From waiting to acting. From dreaming to building. They are the ones who realize that for too long they lived like spectators in their own destiny. But this moment, is the call to step into the arena fully awake. Others freeze because they expect perfection before permission. They think God waits for them to be flawless. But God doesn't need your perfection. He needs your participation. He needs your willingness to show up even if you're rough around the edges, even if you don't have all the answers, even if your past still echoes in your mind. When He says it's starting, He already accounted for your flaws. He already calculated your weaknesses. He already evaluated your mistakes and still said, "Yes. You're the one." Some freeze because they fear the cost. And there is always a cost. Growth demands sacrifice. Purpose demands consistency. Elevation demands discipline. But the cost of staying where you are is always greater than the cost of becoming who you're meant to be. Destiny has a bill, but regret charges interest. When God says it's starting, it means the old season is officially dead. It means the excuses that once sounded convincing now sound hollow. It means you can no longer pretend you didn't hear the call. It means the door you were afraid to walk through is now the only one that leads forward. And whether you freeze or you move is the difference between a life half-lived and a life fully ignited. And make no mistake, this phase is not gentle. God does not start with a whisper when you were born to roar. The beginning of a divine shift always feels like pressure, because pressure reveals what you were always capable of. Diamonds do not apologize for the pressure that made them, and neither should you. Those who heard the words and froze will spend their lives wondering what could have been. Those who heard the words and moved will spend their lives living what others only imagine. When God says it's starting, it means the season of waiting is over. It means you're stepping into something bigger than logic, stronger than fear, louder than doubt. It means you're about to see the version of yourself that only heaven believed existed until now. People froze because they didn't believe they were ready. But readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. You decide you're ready by moving. The act of stepping creates the strength you thought you needed beforehand, and the irony? The moment you move, everything that once intimidated you starts losing its power. Fear shrinks. Doubt weakens. Obstacles bend. Not because they disappeared, but because you finally stopped giving them authority. God said it's starting. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Not when you have more confidence, more money, more support, more clarity. Now. Because destiny doesn't begin with resources, it begins with resolve. This is the wake-up call, the frozen fear and the faithful embrace. The narrative continues even more powerfully, but due to length limits, I'll continue in the next message. They froze because they wanted God to start something for them, not through them. They prayed for open doors but never considered that sometimes God hands you the hammer and expects you to break the wall yourself. They wanted ease, not awakening. But when heaven speaks, the world shifts, and those who stand still get left behind by their own hesitation. And here's the truth no one wants to confront: when God says it's starting, it means the delays you blamed on circumstances were really delays caused by your own fear. It means the potential you buried under excuses is being dug up whether you're ready or not. It means the universe has grown tired of watching you shrink. It means your comfort zone just expired. The people who freeze often look for signs, confirmations, validations, proof, but when God speaks, that is the sign. That is the confirmation. That is the proof. But humans want something safer, something that doesn't demand they risk anything. So when the divine call booms like thunder, they stand still, overwhelmed by a truth they can no longer ignore. It's their move now, but destiny doesn't wait for the frozen. It waits for the fighters. The fighters are the ones who hear the same words, "It's starting," and instead of freezing, they inhale deeply, square their shoulders, and say, "Finally." They've been uncomfortable for too long, restless for too long, alive but not awakened. These are the ones who felt the shift coming before the rest of the world caught up. They were outgrowing their old life long before God made the announcement. They are the ones who always sensed they were meant for more, even when nothing around them reflected it. They felt the weight of their calling even before they had language for it. And when God said it's starting, everything inside them erupted, not with fear, but with recognition. This is the moment I was built for. God doesn't start with the loudest. He starts with the willing, and the willing knows something powerful. Beginnings often look like endings. Doors close, people leave, comfort crumbles, routines fall apart. And the frozen see tragedy where the faithful see transition. They see divine disruption where others see destruction. They know that God clears the old not to punish, but to prepare, and preparation rarely feels gentle. when God says it's starting, He starts by stripping away everything that cannot go with you. Friends who drain you. Habits that weaken you. Thoughts that sabotage you. Environments that keep you small. Opportunities that are actually traps disguised as blessings. He removes them because He knows that if you carry them into the next season, they will kill the very destiny you're called to carry. Most people freeze because losing the familiar feels like dying. But the awakened understand that losing the familiar is the birth of transformation. They don't freeze, they adapt. They don't shrink, they expand. They don't beg, they build. This is why God doesn't whisper when He starts something new. He shakes you, pushes you, disrupts the ground beneath your feet so you stop clinging to a life too small for your purpose. The earthquake is not punishment, it's promotion. When God says it's starting, it means He's shifting your identity. You are no longer the version of yourself that tolerated mediocrity. You're not the version that accepted disrespect, settled for less, or dimmed your light to keep others comfortable. You're not the person who second-guesses every idea, fears every failure, or hides every dream. That version is over. Gone. Buried, and that's why the world freezes, because shedding the old self feels like walking into fire. But fire doesn't destroy what you are. It destroys what you are not. You can feel it, can't you? The tension between who you were and who you're becoming. The pull forward. The silent pressure. The invisible force that refuses to let you stay where you are. That's not stress, that's spiritual acceleration. Heaven is pushing, destiny is calling. The old world is collapsing beneath your feet not to trap you but to force movement. Because if your comfort stayed intact, you would remain trapped in it. God is too committed to your purpose to let ease destroy you, and while the frozen panic, the awakened prepare, they sharpen their minds. They discipline their bodies. They refine their focus. They let go of distractions. They cut off the noise. They step into silence where clarity finally speaks. They rise earlier. They push harder. They think bigger. They walk like someone carrying a message from heaven itself, because they are. When God says it's starting, your entire life will begin to reorganize itself. The people meant for you will appear. The ones not meant for you will fall away. Opportunities will open as if the universe has been waiting for your courage to show up. Synchronicities multiply. Breakthroughs accelerate. Obstacles fall apart with suspicious ease once you stop sabotaging yourself. But none of that happens if you freeze. Movement is the proof of faith. Motion is the proof of readiness. Action is the proof you took God seriously. The frozen want miracles without movement. The chosen move until miracles manifest. And make no mistake, once God says it's starting, the resistance will show up. Doubt. Fear. Opposition. Unexpected problems. people questioning your path, enemies you didn't even know you had. But resistance doesn't mean you're wrong, it means you're important. No one attacks what isn't threatening. Darkness only rises when light begins to expand. The frozen interpret resistance as a sign to stop, the called interpret resistance as a sign to continue. Because when heaven initiates a shift, hell reacts, not because you're weak, but because you're powerful. You are stepping into a version of yourself that terrifies anything that feeds on your past insecurities. You are walking into territory where excuses cannot survive. You are entering a chapter where discipline becomes natural, confidence becomes automatic, and purpose becomes instinctive. God said it's starting because you're finally ready. Not because you feel ready, but because you've grown strong enough to survive the transition. And everything you've been through, every heartbreak, every disappointment, every loss, every moment you thought would break you, was actually building you for this exact season. You didn't go through fire for nothing, you didn't cry those tears for nothing. You didn't fight those battles for nothing, you didn't survive those storms to stay frozen now. When God says it's starting, your future begins demanding your presence. Your destiny begins demanding your courage. Your calling begins demanding your voice. And heaven begins watching to see who moves first, the old you or the new you.